Hello, welcome to the final episode of Whining with Kevin. I am Kevin Halmanack, and I am very excited to be ending this series with a great friend of mine. He'll get into kind of how we know each other and what he does, but I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Opalea, aka Chef Opie. What's up, buddy?
How are you, sir? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course. I'm so happy to be drinking with you in the middle of the day.
About time we got together again.
What did you bring for us today?
Well, I figured I'd harken back to a little bit how we met and what we enjoy when we get the evening started. We brought some Guinness, and I brought some Jameson. I brought a little higher quality of Jameson than we're used to indulging in, but Jameson nonetheless.
All right. Well, let's maybe we should have a shot of that.
I think
to get
we should
started.
start.
And a couple nice cigars here. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So whining with Kevin has really turned into whiskeying with Kevin. So it's been enjoyable. And I hope to probably my next series maybe do something with restaurant and bar owners since the weather's turning and I won't be spending as much time on the patio.
Well, I mean, when I seen that first, I thought it was winning with Kevin. I said, nobody's winning after
Nobody,
eating with Kevin.
not after an hour of drinking with Kevin. Cheers, everyone.
Nice those glasses.
Smooth, huh?
It
It's
is.
nice.
A little bit more vanilla than...
Yeah, it's a little more caramelized,
Yeah.
a little vanilla. Well, good. Well, why don't you tell everyone kind of how we met, how we know each other a little bit?
So, I first met Kevin when I was working in the restaurant. Both of us worked for in the restaurant called Zealous with Chef Michael Taus. I first met him when we were up in Elmhurst. I don't know, 96, 97, somewhere
Wasn't that
around
long
there.
ago, huh?
Somewhere around maybe 98.
Yeah.
I know it was just before the move.
Oh, yeah, it had to be 97, I think.
97, 98. So I first met him up there, and then we moved. Zealous moved downtown to the River North area off Superior, and he came back around 2001, 2.
Yeah, after
Up in Zealous, and that's when we actually started hanging out and became friends as opposed to just acquaintances.
we put a lot of hours in together.
Yeah, so
that
I mean-
was 5 days a week, but a lot of hours.
Yeah, so we were together 5 days a week, probably 12 hours a day, just in the restaurant alone. That's not including after hours.
Which,
I mean, I think I spent more time with Kevin during those years than I do with my wife, without a doubt. So we started hanging out at the bars and going out after work, and that's like I said, when we really became friends, and really good friends. We'd go out after work and have a couple cocktails and double beers, and most nights it started off just like this with a glass of Guinness and a couple of shots of Jameson, and
ended like that as well.
and pretty much ended like that as well.
Well, we were fortunate that when we were at Zealous, a new bar had opened just around the corner, or a couple blocks away, but a place called Coyote Ugly, where they really treated us well, and it was kind of our second home over there. So
Yes.
it was a great place. So shout out to all of them.
Yeah, I miss all of them.
I should say also, we got a bit of good news. As always, our unofficial sponsor is Frank's, located at 2503 North Clark, serving all your libation needs. Open 11 a.m. to 4 a.m. every day, 5 a.m. on Saturday, and we'll be reopening, according to the mayor, I think this weekend, 1st of October. I think it goes into effect. So he'll be reopening, so if you're down in that neighborhood, try to go say hi to Frank.
Midnight tonight?
I think tomorrow. I don't think it's midnight tonight.
Right.
And Frank's was another spot where we spent a lot of time.
So we would go from Coyote Ugly to Frank's. Spy Bar was another spot that we would frequent, and
A lot of places, huh?
yeah, but it was like a handful of 5 that we're always at.
Yeah. What when did you start? I know I worked with you a little bit, but when did you start wanting to get in the kitchen and cook?
That was young. When I was young, my father worked 3rd shift, my mother worked 1st shift. So when I would come from home from school or during the summer, my grandma was watching over us and taking care of us because my dad was sleeping and my mom was at work. So my grandma, to keep me out of trouble, would bring me in the kitchen and hand off projects with me. You know, clean green beans or standard breading, which I didn't know at that time was called standard breading, but flour, egg wash, and breadcrumbs for dinner. So I would spend the afternoon with her cooking. and she would show me how to cook, or she'd just send me in a corner and say, do this and leave me alone for 2 hours while I get dinner together. And that's kind of where I started to get my love for cooking.
Pierogies? Did you ever make pierogies?
Oh, every Easter, the whole family would get together and we'd knock through easily 400 or 500 pierogies for the year. We'd make potatoes and cheese. We'd make sauerkraut. We'd make the sweet cheese. One person would make the dough. One person would roll. My sister would use the fork and crimp. The old man was always on the stove boiling. My mom was filling.
You have a lot of space. Where did you do it?
We did in the kitchen, yeah. But I mean, we'd spend 4 or 5 hours just blasting through that. Everybody take a project, and after they got boiled, they got cooled down, and we'd wrap them up and freeze them throughout the year.
That's great.
And we'd pull them out, and a little bit of butter in the pan, brown them on both sides.
My aunt, my niece Heather just made pierogies. That's why I was thinking. They did a good job, but I'd be interested in trying it again. So probably some pointers from you.
Yeah, anytime you want, I'd love to. Kind of lost. We haven't done that in a long time since everybody kind of in different areas, but
It's good for the holidays too. Pierogies, kind of a special.
Yeah,
day.
we'd always do it. We'd always do it around Easter.
Yeah.
Always doing it right, like the week before, and then we'd bring some out for around Easter, and then all year long we'd have them in the freezer and just a couple times a month.
I love it. I mean, I'll buy them now just to have them. You fry up 4 or 5 of them sometimes as a snack. That's probably why my cholesterol's so good. So did you decide after high school then to go into culinary school?
It was always kind of a passion of mine, and I always said, I think 7 or 8 is when I first said I was going to be a chef.
Wow.
And outside of fleeting dreams, I'm going to be the running back for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And the old man always looked at me. He's like, "You don't have the height, son.
Better start cooking.
Nor the speed." Outside of a couple of things like that, it's always been a passion of mine to cook, and I don't think I varied too much as what my career path, what I wanted it to be, and I've always said I was going to be a chef. And as soon as high school ended, I went to culinary school, and it's been there ever since.
What culinary school did you go to?
Kendall?
Oh yeah, that's right. In Evanston.
When it was still in Evanston, yeah. 2 blocks away from Northwestern.
Yeah.
In a fun little area.
It's amazing. I went to Johnson & Wales, which also has an excellent culinary program. I went for the management side because I don't look good in white, but it was always a passion of mine too. It's I guess it's just in you because you really, if you don't have a passion for it, the hours and the stress is just
too much.
Hard on relationships.
Yeah.
But you've been quite successful as far as that goes. I mean, you and Carrie have been together now how long?
It was our 20th in June.
20 years. Oh, happy
20 years.
anniversary.
Thank you.
How
20.
old are the kids now?
Caden is 12. Maddie she's going to turn 10 in December.
Wow. Big, huh?
Yeah.
Time flies.
Big. They're getting big. Getting mouths on them. They're very active. Now I spend a lot of time. Luckily, not luckily, but I moved away from restaurants, about 14, 15 years ago. I went to catering. Because it was time for me to start kids. And,
Yeah.
And I knew sitting 16 hours in the restaurants,
That wasn't going to fly.
it wasn't going to fly. So I moved into catering just so I could have a little more stable hours, a little more predictable hours, and it was closer to the house because I was working downtown in River North at Zealous, but living in Elmhurst.
Yeah, with your drinking habits, that doesn't work.
No, it was very difficult. Coming home when the old lady was leaving for work at 7 in the morning wasn't good on the relationship either.
Wasn't gonna last.
So I found a job closer to the house in catering, working at Corky's Catering. So I've been there for 15 years, but hours are more stable. It's more scheduled so that I can make parent-teacher conferences or go see a baseball game or run a kid here or run a kid there. Even if it's in the middle of the day, at least I can get away for an hour and get back to work because it is so close.
Well, that's nice, that flexibility.
Yeah.
Because in a restaurant, you can't do that.
No, in a restaurant you can't do that.
You can't leave for a second.
No.
Yeah, it's rough. What is have you talked to Michael Taus? Just going back to that.
We
Chef Michael Taus was the owner of Zealous and our employer.
So every once in a while we'll
Later.
reach out and we'll have a conversation. At least once a year we'll talk. Usually around the holidays or here or there. I've been at his restaurants once or twice I think I stopped by and had dinner and said hello and that. But what's really funny is a friend of mine. So I'm on a group of Elmhurst dads. It's called Indian Princesses, where we take our daughters, daddy-daughter, and we'll go out camping and bowling and bike riding and all that kind of stuff. So it gets all the kids together. So I made a friend in the Elmhurst Princesses, and it's funny. He invited me to an online poker game during this whole COVID period, around like June, May or something like that. So I've been remember Don?
How does that work online poker?
So there's a online app, and you play poker, and then everybody gets on Zoom. So we're playing the game
So
on
electronic.
It's all electronic.
Yeah, I got it.
So we're running it through the app, but everybody's on Zoom, so we're able to talk shit back and forth to
that's
each other,
cool.
read.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's not great, but it's better than nothing. So you remember Don?
Street time?
What the hell's his last name?
The wine guy?
Yeah, the wine guy.
Yeah. He had his own wine shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my friend Vince and Don are friends.
Oh.
He invited me in, and so I get online, I pull up the Zoom, and I look, and there's Don. Don looks at me and goes,
That's
"Oh,
hilarious.
yeah, like Don." It's 15 years, I think, was the last time I seen him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I run into him at wine tastings, not anymore since they don't have them, but I usually see him once or twice a year.
But it's crazy how everything just comes full circle.
Yeah, Chicago's like that.
It's unbelievable. But so I ran into him, but I'll talk to Michael every once in a while.
Yeah, he's moved around a little bit. I know he left one situation probably almost a year ago. He was with that big group that had, I don't even remember the name of it.
Isn't he still with that group?
I think he moved to another group.
He's moved to another group. I know he's got I forget what the name of the restaurant, but it's in Oak Park. He's got another one downtown. There's like 4 or 5 restaurants that he's kind of overseeing as a culinary director.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, he had a great restaurant. It was probably a great place for you to be in the kitchen.
Well, I started out
He
with
let you do
Michael.
it.
Well, I started off with Michael as my intern from Kendall in Elmhurst, and I was washing dishes, and I'd walk in the morning, and he'd hand me a case of leeks or peppers, and I'd julienne or dice at least 6 to 8 hours a day. That was my task, and then I'd go on to the garde manger area and I'd make salads and desserts. So just that alone for 6 months of chopping and slicing, I got great knife skills. I mean, I could fly through peppers and carrots and just, it was great. So it was able, by the time I got on my intern, my knife skills were fantastic because that's all I did. 6 months, 6 hours a day,
And it's
5
important
days a
because
week.
there's a lot of prep in every aspect.
In every
any
aspect.
kitchen that you're in.
Yeah, so the faster you can get through it, the faster you can
Yeah.
move on to the more detail-oriented or the skilled level pieces of the kitchen.
Yeah.
So from there, I went from that to garde manger and then fish and all that stuff, and I moved up to sous chef with him eventually before I left when he opened up the spot in River North. I was chef de cuisine with him and running the kitchen, running the front of the house, running the back of the house, working with him on all the menus and stuff, and he gave me a lot of responsibility, a lot of.
He was also very demanding, I would think.
He was also very
But
demanding, but he
that's not
allowed me.
unusual.
He allowed me to grow in that, and I mean, without him, I wouldn't be where I was today.
Yeah.
He showed me everything I know about cooking right now, about running a kitchen, about handling staff. Like I said, without him, I wouldn't be where I was. I don't know if I would get that education that he allowed me to get and to make the mistakes I made and allow to screw around with food and come up with different ideas necessarily and try different ideas if it wasn't for him.
And at the time, he had one of the top restaurants in the city.
At the time, yeah.
It was-
Zealous was up there.
I mean, I know we were in Wine Spectator magazine for a
Mhm.
wine list. He would always be getting great reviews. He was a little ahead of his time. He didn't kind of follow through with a couple things that, I think if you have a PR person or someone to kind of help you along, because it's tough enough to run a restaurant, let alone have to think about how you're going to promote the restaurant.
But he was always ahead of his time. I
Yeah.
mean, in Elmhurst when I was there, his restaurant would be perfect right now in Elmhurst because there's a couple spots that are doing what we kind of did back in the day. But when we were there at that time, everybody just wanted steak and potatoes. I mean, even in River North, I mean, eventually our best seller was a ribeye and mashed potatoes.
That's
I mean,
right. You can't get away from it in Chicago. It's every
No.
place. Every restaurant I've worked at, Italian or otherwise, it's always the steak that sells.
yeah.
And it's always a high price ticket too. Nowadays, I mean, you can't get a steak for less than $50 right
No.
downtown.
No, I remember selling that ribeye for like 32 or 40 bucks.
Yeah.
16-ounce bone in, beautiful
Awesome.
prime.
Well, what do you think? What would be the highlight of your
Culinary
career?
career? I forgot what year it was, but it was either, so we opened up in 2000, so it was either 2000 or 2001. We went, it was New Year's Eve at Zealous, and we transferred from New Year's Eve dinner to going to New York for the James Beard dinner.
Oh yeah.
It was
that was before I got back.
So it must have been 2001.
Yeah.
I think it was like January 2nd that we actually had the dinner at I'd have to look at it, but I remember working all day for New Year's Eve, crushing it. I don't even think we went home that day. Turned around, cleaned the kitchen up, put everything away, turned around, and then started prepping for the James Beard dinner.
You guys were cooking a dinner at James Beard
at
House.
the James Beard House in New York. Sorry.
Yeah. Who were the guests for that?
I don't even know who the guests were, but it was
Probably
it was
media
open to the
people.
public. There were some
yeah.
media people, whoever's part of the James Beard Foundation was there. But it was me, Michael. I forgot who else was there, and I believe a friend of his, pastry chef. I think his name was Richard. Was with us. So we turned around from New Year's Eve, busted our ass, cooked all day, from like midnight, 1 o'clock after we cleaned up, till
So you did the prep work in Chicago.
in Chicago. We got everything, packed everything up,
How did you pack it up? To fly?
coolers and boxes, and
On an airplane?
on an airplane.
Wow.
Yeah. Back then, you paid for a little bit, but there was
You
no
could do that
luggage
back then.
restrictions back in 2000. No,
Was-
huge.
Just out of curiosity, when you opened up the packages when you got there, they were
Most of the stuff was okay.
all right? Okay.
I think we had to make a couple grocery store runs, just a couple things got broken, or a
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
things, we had to fix, but
That had to be incredible.
for the most part, it was the most fun. I was up for almost 48 hours straight, from New Year's Day, cooking all day. I ran home, took a shower, packed, jumped on the plane, got there, and then we executed the meal. Like I said, I don't remember if it was, I think it was like the second. Try to get some sleep on a bench in James Beard's house, at 3 o'clock, and just couldn't fall asleep because you're so hyped up from it. And then executed the meal, and we didn't even go out that night afterwards because just complete exhaustion.
Yeah.
So we were up for a good.
Did you fly back the next day? You didn't even. Did you stay?
We stayed over, so whatever second,
Yeah.
we fly back on the 3rd.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but we didn't go anywhere. We had dinner at that time. I've done the James Beard House twice with him, but the first one was amazing. We went to Le Cirque for dinner, or for lunch, before we jumped on the plane.
Oh, that'd be great.
Lunch was cool. Lunch was great.
What do you think the best restaurant you've eaten at has been in the world? I guess
That's a
You
tough one
travel.
because it's food and it's experience and it's atmosphere. So all of them kind of the best time I had at a restaurant was Daniel's in New York.
Daniel Boulay.
Me and Carrie went down. We flew into New York and we just did a culinary tour. We went there. We went to Kraft. It just opened up. I remember we got a couple of other places where we went to, but Daniel was the highlight we wanted to. Carrie called up and made the reservation. Said that my chef, she played the kind of receptionist kind of thing. My chef's coming in. He wants to get a reservation, so he put us down for 2 and he got us in. But we walked in and we gave him our name and he's like, "Oh, right this way," and they ushered us in and on the table is a 3-tier hors d'oeuvre tower. All the like kind of those cake towers are just filled with hors d'oeuvres, like 8 or 10 of them, 2 each. Going on, and then we got a 7 or 8 course meal, sitting there with wine pairings and all that, and it was just they took care of us. They doted over us. We took a tour of the kitchen and all the where they were curing some dry aging some beef, and it was amazing. They took care of us up and down. It was so much fun and just so.
Did they comp the meal?
They didn't comp the meal. It would have been nice. That would have been good. But it wasn't that bad.
Oh.
I mean,
250?
yeah, 250, 300 for the two of us.
With wine pairings.
With wine pairings. I've had meals where it's been the same two of us in similar fashion, where it's been almost 250 or 300 each.
I mean, you can go to BW3s and spend 200.
Now, yeah. But that was great. Another great experience I had, and the food was amazing too, was Charlie Trotters.
Yeah.
Charlie and Michael, Michael's a student of Charlie Trotter, and I've always had a great respect of Charlie. And in the kitchen, in Michael's kitchen, we always used to call him Uncle Charlie.
Yeah.
So to have meals over there, I went, I think 3 times I've eaten dinner at Charlie Trotter's back in the day. And he's always been, somebody that I admired as a chef. But we sat there, me and Carrie, went on there and ate dinner, and Charlie came up and said hello and signed one of his culinary cookbooks. I forget which one was out. It was either seafood or meats. Signed it, to Opie and signed it Charlie Trotter. But we were sitting there, and I don't know who the guy sat next to us, but he was eating dinner by himself. And he was getting like $500 bottles of wine. And he had his own fucking wine collection in the corner for Charlie. Charlie made a big deal about him. I was like, okay, so we're sitting there, and he's like, you want to try? Charlie's talking to you. Here's a glass. And all of a sudden, every bottle he opens, he's pouring 2 glasses for us. And pouring 2 glasses for me and her. We must have went through 4 bottles with him and just sat there and talked.
That's amazing.
I don't know who he was, but Charlie he's like there the 25th time, and in 2000, Charlie was open, what?
Yeah.
10, 15 years?
Yeah. Well, we did one thing I remember from Zealous is when we had our anniversary dinner with Charlie Trotter and his staff.
Yeah.
So we did 10 courses or something, and every other course?
Yeah, so 5 each.
Yeah.
We alternated back and forth, because there was that one.
That was a lot of work.
All those dinners were a lot of work.
Because, well, when you switch courses, that's what made it difficult, because...
You have to move out of the space.
Kind of.
And everybody has to move into the space, and you have to keep rotating.
Yeah. Luckily that kitchen was big, but...
But still, it was difficult, And you're trying to help them,
And that was wine pairings as well. 10 wine pairings we did. From the front of the house standpoint, we were flying through glassware.
Oh, I know. I remember we had to rent a bunch from halls. We had just stacked up in the hallway. But those are always fun. I mean, those are always
they're exciting. Fun. They seem like a lot of pressure at the time, but when they're over, they're really satisfying.
They are.
Because everyone had such a great time.
And then you get to hang out with the other staff. You get to see some of the techniques that people are doing. If you observe right, you can see what other people are doing, how they're running that stuff.
Now, do you ever miss doing a dinner like that once in a while?
I do.
I know you wouldn't want to do it full time, but
I miss the restaurants. I can't lie. I miss the pace. I miss the hectic. I miss the staff or the customers. That's probably the most. The regular customers who came in.
Yeah.
Dr. Edelstein, Mr. Lappin, Sam Zell, all those guys who would come in on a regular basis, and even Gino, when Gino would come in,
Well, we had such a diverse group of friends that would come visit us.
That's true too. Manager Mike.
You had the Coyote Ugly girls over there.
And that was always fun when they would walk in.
Pulling up on Harleys. That's why we have the bar.
Shane.
I think you'll like the bar tonight. We'll just slide them right over there.
There was one time we put them right in the chef's table. The bamboo just completely encompassed them when the bamboo was alive.
I gotta say, I think that's one of the most beautiful restaurants.
It was gorgeous.
It was incredible.
I mean, when he opened that up, it was gorgeous. Especially when everything was on, and the bamboo was always a problem. It was always dying, always getting replaced. But when it was full and beautiful and the sun was shining, it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's a shame that it never really took off, I think, as it should have.
I mean, he lasted. I mean, what was it?
5 years, sir? It was 99? So
He opened up in 2000.
6?
No, I thought it was later than that.
Maybe it was. After I left, I didn't pay attention.
I think he had at least, I think it was about 10 years there.
That's a good ride, I guess.
I mean, I know Zealous was around for 15 years before it finally, he finally closed it up and moved on. I mean, everything has its fun. You run your course.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Well, new restaurants opening up, and the restaurant scene changed so much. With Chef Grant changing kind of the whole scope of food.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, restaurants are so different than when we were working.
Especially downtown.
Yeah.
especially.
Although now with the pandemic, so many places are closing.
It's going to be interesting to see how.
I don't know how
everything-
many customers are willing to eat inside quite yet. You know, maybe they'll feel better, but I don't think anything's going to happen until next spring, which means probably a lot more closures.
I think even later than that. Last I heard is third quarter potentially where stuff starts to go back to normal.
Well, it's when and that's you got to consider when people are going to feel comfortable. You know, that's
But
the harder.
even it's not the people because
Well, yeah, once eventually they'll figure out hopefully some sort of vaccine or.
right. But
at
I
least
don't
some
I
sort
don't
of
think
remedy.
I don't think I might be in the minority on this or in a different area though. But I don't think a lot of it is a person's comfort level. I think it's the restrictions of the restaurant. Because I think if you open a restaurant full, I bet you could fill a restaurant. I bet you people would go.
Yeah, but because of the restrictions, people probably are more hesitant then.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
then
not only that,
then
they
think
can only
that-
get fit 25.
Well, yeah,
And
but they also think, well, maybe it's not safe yet because
Mhm.
there's such a limitation.
that as well.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't know. Looking at my career, we'll see what I end up doing with Antoine. And what do you think with the catering business? I mean, that should come back, right?
It should come back. I mean, we're getting a lot of inquiries for 2021, 2022. It's the corporate business that is concerning
Yeah.
because no one's in the offices, no one's coming in anymore,
You know, and
and I
from
think
that
a lot
standpoint, they might not bring people back into an office setting.
that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
But it's probably a backlog of weddings and events that people are postponing.
Yeah, a lot of weddings got pushed off till next
Yeah.
year, or some people turned into what is they're calling micro events now. You know, backyard 20-person weddings.
Yeah, I did that with Todd's brother. You know, it's nice, and it's not what people's dream is of when they get married, especially young people.
No, but if people aren't willing to necessarily wait till 2022 to have a wedding, you know, they can have a small one and then blow out in 2022.
Yeah. A lot of people probably just have big parties now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride though, the restaurant business in Chicago. I mean, before the pandemic, we were one of the top places definitely in the United States, and
I think we're still up at that level. I mean, because
Yeah.
New York is still having these issues, and California, without a doubt, is hurting. So. Yeah.
well, what? I'm sure we can talk all day about restaurant business, which we always end up doing. But what would you do if you weren't in the restaurant business? Like, if you had a chance to kind of redo one of your passions, what would it have been outside of playing football for the Bengals?
Damn it! It comes off the table again.
Still not an option.
I've always had a passion for numbers and math as well. So probably in like an architecture or engineering,
yeah.
you know, something along there where it's working with your hands and building and using, you know, those skills. I still love building. I love construction.
You did your whole deck. I mean,
Well, yeah, so I just, you know, since this pandemic, it's nothing but housework. So I just put flooring in my basement. I just tore the deck out of my backyard and we put in cement, although I did not do the cement. I hired somebody out to that. It was 2 truckloads of cement that came in.
how many days? Over a couple days?
A couple
Days
days.
to dry, right?
Yeah, so I mean, there were like 12 guys out there working on the backyard for 3 days, digging and leveling out and pouring cement and finishing cement. So I mean, that's not necessarily a project that I could probably take it on myself, but yeah, I've been doing that. I've been taking the deck wood and repurpose it into planters and benches and just trying to use it up. So it was still decent deck wood, so I didn't want to throw it away and I didn't want to pay somebody to haul it away. So I just been trying to use it up and trying to fill out my deck now. Now I got 600 square feet of patio, filling that up. But it's something in that field,
Yeah.
you know, architecture, engineering, construct, you know, something along that line is probably what I would gravitate to as well.
Okay. Now, would you consider doing pop-up restaurants? You know how places do that? I guess they bring in chefs and do a pop-up for a weekend or a week. I don't know how they work exactly. That's all I keep hearing is the trend is kind of these restaurants that pop up with a different theme.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about different ideas, just trying to get business as well. You know.
Even yeah, with the catering company,
With the catering
you guys
company,
can do different
so-
things like that.
We're doing some stuff in front right now where we're it's basically a pop-up restaurant, but it's in our parking lot, where people can come in and get hot dogs and hamburgers and Italian
Oh, that's
beef and
cool.
fried chicken and
All to go kind of stuff.
well, we set up a couple tables and a
If
couple
they want
tents,
to,
to sit. But we're in a huge industrial area,
Yeah.
so people want to grab their meal sometimes and go.
Hey, good.
Good. So we're doing that right now. We've talked about potentially food trucks or behind trailers where we can go in areas and all that stuff. It's just hard because it's getting that name and then getting publicity that we're over here and people wanting to
That's
fly.
the whole thing,
Pulling up in a trailer and going, "We're here."
It doesn't work.
work.
No, it's not like the old days. You really gotta
No.
have a brand out there first.
Yeah, and the pandemic really stifles a lot of that too because you can't. People are hesitant about going out and ordering food and coming to see you necessarily on the corner.
Well, I think it's shot time.
I agree.
We started a little late today, but we got lucky with the weather. I thought it was going to rain all day, but
I was worried
kind of
about
blew
that.
over. So hopefully, maybe my next series when I do hopefully restaurants, bars, maybe even come back and see your establishment. And
I'd love
operate.
that. That'd be great.
I like to get there when you're doing all the fried chicken. It's my favorite time.
More chicken.
More chicken.
So Kevin would help me out at the catering establishment when he was between jobs, or he wasn't working in the month of December, which not often, but on occasionally. And I'd call him up because we would do a quarter of the business for the year in the month of December, and usually it was in the 2 weeks of December leading up to Christmas. So Kev would come up on.
And you did package like boxes to go for people.
Yeah,
for that
so
party.
we did a lot of, well, as far as the catering company goes, we do drop-off business, so we bring the food to your facility or house or office space, and here's your food for the day, we can set it up. We also do all the event services, where it's the full, like a wedding. We'll bring in all the tables and chairs and all the glassware, the plates, the silverware and all that, set up linens and execute a full plated meal for your wedding, and then clean up and we go home.
It's a great service. I mean, it's
So we do everything from very simple to very elegant and everything in between, depending on what your need is, what your budget requires. We accommodate everybody. So Kevin's worked on a couple events with me as a bartender, as a server, but I think the most fun he's had was when he worked in the kitchen with me on a couple days prior to Christmas. He would come up, he would take the train out or drive up. He would stay at my house for 2 days. We'd get up at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, go into work 12 hours, and either Kevin was near the fryers frying chicken, and we'd go through 1,200 to 12,000 pounds of chicken in a day.
Yeah. Well, I think we did 75,000 pieces or 25,000 pieces.
Yes,
Right.
in one day.
So
Well, that weekend, those 3 days, we went over 25,000 pounds of chicken.
yeah.
It was crazy.
And you got how many fryers do you have lined up side by side? Like 10?
14 fryers.
Oh,
14 fryers, and they're the big fryers. They're the 140 pounders, and not the 70 pounders.
Yeah.
So like your
most
standard
restaurants have 7.
70, yeah. So that's the two 35 pound tubs of oil, the jibs. We go through 4 per fryer, and I have 14. And we start frying at 5 o'clock. I mean, people are having fried chicken for breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we fry all the way until 4 or 5 o'clock at night. And there's like maybe an hour break. For us, it's like 12 o'clock. And then frying again. And 3 days straight. It's insane.
It's something else. At one point, I was just yelling to Opie, more chicken. We need more chicken. Damn it. Bring out the chicken.
And it just doesn't stop.
Well, the coolest thing, though, people, you would have to see it. It's hard to describe, but the little room next to the fryers.
So it's our chicken cooler.
Yeah.
It's loaded with nothing but chicken.
Yeah.
So we have the door coming in through the back where the truck would pull up, and we just unload chicken through the back right into the cooler. So,
But the breading,
the breading
the
process.
mixer.
So we had at one point way back. I can't take credit for this. This was Ed Green way back in the day. He had a stainless steel, for lack of a better word, cement mixer.
It looks like a bag.
It looks like a huge cement mixer, but it's all stainless steel. It's all food grade.
How you doing?
It's
my favorite hobbies, right?
It's Wednesday.
Would you like one? So it's a big stainless steel mixer that we use to bread our chicken. We can stick about 120 pounds worth of chicken, so 3 cases of chicken in this cement mixer, toss it, dump it, and take it to the fryer in less than 5 minutes.
It's crazy.
And it breads it nice,
Yeah.
nice coating. You pull it out. There's no waste. There's no excess. It's
the best I've ever seen. The setup is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The chicken's great, of course. Well, yeah. Tell people. I mean, before we continue, why don't you tell them what the company, how they can get in touch with you?
Corky's Catering. We're out in Addison, but we deliver everywhere.
Yeah.
We go pretty much Wisconsin border, Indiana border, down to the lake, and out to Rockford. We do anything you guys want. You know, our main, I guess what you know Corky's as is fried chicken and Italian beef. We have great Italian beef, family stuff, great Italian beef, great fried chicken. But with my background in high-end restaurants and some-course meals, we do a lot of customized food. My favorite, my best experience I've ever had at Corky's. It was early on. I think it was there maybe a year and a half. A Hungarian couple. They were a little older. Came in and was trying to find a catering company that
Was it Al Grabowski who used to pitch for St. Louis? The Mad Hungarian?
The Mad Hungarian. It was him. He was always pissed. It was actually Abe Froman, but
The Sausage King.
Sausage King. So, but he came in and he was looking for somebody, a catering company, to recreate all of his deceased grandmother's recipes. Hungarian food for his wedding.
Wow.
So he brought in the recipes, all handwritten, like on the tattered paper. The paper had all turned yellow. I mean, it was old recipes. Like, can you do this? And I looked at him. I said, "Yeah, I can."
It was in English.
It was in English. I couldn't do it in Hungarian. Translate it and we'll talk. But he brought it in, and I was able to recreate all of his grandmother's recipes. We did the tasting. He's like, "These are better," and I'm not gonna tell my grandmother. She's not gonna listen to you anyways. But so we did that for him, for his wedding, for about 60 people. All of her recipes. It was the coolest thing. And when he thanked him, his wife thanked me. You know, tear running down his eyes, and it was the coolest thing I've ever done. I will never forget that experience in my entire life.
Yeah, that's special. Did you learn anything? Any recipes from that?
I worked a couple ideas into him. I didn't copy them directly, but you know,
I assume goulash was like a...
No, he had a. I'm trying to remember. So
how much different is it than Polish? Oh.
Not terribly different. They use a lot of the same ingredients. They use them in different ways. Very similar though. We did a wedding soup, so basically chicken broth with some vegetables and kohlrabi. I'm trying to remember which the chicken was a brown butter cream sauce.
Almost like an Indian dish, isn't it? Like
No. It was just roast. It was roasted chicken with a brown butter cream sauce. So you brown the butter, you add balsamic vinegar and cream. So it's very simple. I was a little shocked that that's what we wanted, but that's what I wanted. We did roasted pork loin with a sun-dried plum or prune sauce, which killer combination. It was really good. I'm trying to remember some of the other stuff, and then like a kohlrabi slaw, peas and carrots. That was a simple one, but
potatoes of some sort.
Potatoes of some sort. I forget what the potatoes were. I mean, it was 15 years ago, but it was all his grandmother's recipe. It was, like I said, coolest experience I've ever had.
That's awesome. Well, one question I always like to ask, and I'm sure you've seen a couple of the interviews already. Towards the end, I always like to ask if you can invite 3 people to dinner. You know, past, present, future. Like, kind of not excluding family, but of course we would all probably want our relatives there. You know, if you can pick some more interesting people that you're interested in, who would they be? What would you have for dinner? Kind of what would the topic of conversation be? That's that kind of.
Let's see. I've seen the first one, and I've been racking my brain over this.
It's kind of a tough question. You think it'd be easy?
See, if you only allow 3, so I got 2 groups because I remember Todd said it's fictional or
oh yeah,
real life. So there's a fictional group that I'd love to have. And that was an easy one. So it was like Big Lebowski,
Oh yeah.
Billy Madison, and Frank the Tank.
Yeah.
So I mean that was an easy one.
That's
I mean,
easy. I think that would be on everyone's.
that was
top
straightforward.
memory list.
Now as far as real life people, that one came. I got two, and the third one I just can't nail down. So I've always wanted to hang out with Waylon.
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings. I was thinking today, if you would allow me to include the Highwaymen as the one group,
Yeah.
that would be spectacular. But Waylon Jennings,